Tamil was a human explorer sent by Earth to the planet Varnik 9 as part of a peaceful mission. Varnik 9 was a beautiful world, green skies, glowing rivers, and large floating rocks in the sky. Its people, the Varnokians, were tall, peaceful, and followed very old traditions. They believed in silence during meals, music during prayers, and that clothing was sacred. Tamil had been on the planet for only 3 days. His job was to inspect the natural springs near the outer forest and report if the water could be shared between the two species. It sounded simple, nothing dangerous, just walking, checking, and writing notes. The sun was setting when Tamil reached the spring. A soft mist floated over the water. He stepped past a few glowing trees and arrived at the edge of a pool. He smiled. Looks clean, he said to himself, kneeling down. But before he could test the water, he heard a soft splash behind a tall stone. He turned and then froze. There, standing in the water, was a young Varnokian woman. She had long silver hair and smooth purple skin. Her ceremonial robe, a symbol of honor among her people, was hanging on a tree beside her. For just a second, their eyes met. Hers went wide in shock. "You saw me?" she gasped. Stepping back quickly and trying to cover herself with her arms, Tamil jumped back, waving his hands. "I didn't know, I swear. I thought this area was clear. I'm sorry, but it was too late." Loud horns sounded from the trees. Varnokian guards ran toward the spring, their armor clicking and their staffs glowing. "Step away from the Lady Serna." One guard shouted. Another grabbed Tamil by the arm and pulled him to his knees. The woman Serna quickly put on her robe, her face red with anger and embarrassment. She looked at Tamil and then at the guards. "He saw me, without the robe," she said quietly. The guards looked horrified. One of them turned to Tamil. "Do you understand what you have done, human?" Tamil blinked, still confused. "I said I was sorry. I didn't mean to see anything. I didn't even know someone was there." A high-ranking guard stepped forward. He had a sharp blue crest on his helmet. "Among our people, it is a law. If one sees a noble without their ceremonial covering, they must either marry the noble or face the judgment trial." Tamil blinked again. "Wait, what?" Serna sighed deeply. "He's telling the truth. Human, the law is very old, and the punishment is death for both of us, because we have broken the sacred order." Tamil looked around. "But I didn't do anything wrong. This is all a mistake." The guard didn't answer. He grabbed Tamil's arm again and started walking. "Where are you taking me?" Tamil asked. "To the High Council," the guard replied. "They will decide what must be done." Inside the city of Kavara, Tamil sat in a large, bright room filled with glowing pillars. 12 elders sat on floating chairs, all wearing white and gold robes. Serna stood beside him, arms crossed, still clearly upset. One elder leaned forward. "Serna, daughter of Elder Tarn, do you confirm that this human saw you in the sacred state?" "I confirm," she said, her voice calm now. Another elder looked at Tamil. "And you, human explorer, did you witness her unclothed?" Tamil stood up slowly. "I did, but it was an accident. I didn't even know anyone was there. I meant no disrespect. I only came to check the spring for water safety." The elders whispered among themselves. Finally, the head elder raised her hand. "The law is clear. You have seen what is forbidden to all outsiders. The only escape from the judgment trial is a sacred union, marriage." Tamil nearly choked. "Marry? But we just met." Serna stepped forward suddenly. "Wait," she said. "I have a proposal." Everyone looked at her in surprise. "This bond between us, it does not have to be real. It can be political. A marriage for peace between our kind and the humans. This way, we both survive, and the council saves face." Tamil stared at her. "Are you serious?" Serna glanced at him. Her voice was cold but honest. "I don't want to die. Do you?" Tamil shook his head. "No, I really don't." Serna turned back to the elders. "Let it be a formal union, temporary, if need be." The great hall fell silent after Serna made her offer. The Varnokian elders looked at one another, confused and surprised. A noble asking for a political marriage with a human? It was something unheard of on Varnic 9. Tamil stood still, his heart beating fast. He still couldn't believe how quickly things had changed. One moment, he was checking water. The next, he was being told to marry an alien or face death. Elder Tarn, Serna's father, stood from his floating chair. His tall form and proud face showed power and wisdom. Serna, he said slowly, do you understand what you are asking? A political bond with an outsider could bring shame to our house. Serna met her father's eyes. I understand, father, but if I am to be punished for something that was not my fault, then I would rather use it to protect peace. The human did not harm me. He did not mean to break our laws. Tamil stepped forward. I'll go along with it. I'm not sure how this works, but if it helps both sides avoid trouble, then I agree. The elders began speaking among themselves, again in hushed voices. Finally, the head elder, a woman named Elder Rava, raised her hand. The council accepts this proposal. With conditions. Serna nodded. Name them. Elder Rava continued. This bond must be witnessed publicly by both Varnokians and humans. It must be sealed through the ceremony of unity. Only then will it be accepted as valid. Tamil looked at Serna. What's the ceremony of unity? It's complicated, Serna answered. But I'll explain everything. Just follow my lead. Elder Tarn still looked unhappy, but he did not stop the agreement. So be it, he said. Let the preparations begin. Later that day, Serna and Tamil were taken to the Varnokian royal house. It was a large, beautiful building made of green crystal, with music floating from its walls. Tamil was given a guest chamber in a new outfit, a long tunic with golden threads. It felt strange but soft. Serna came to see him just before nightfall. She wore a light blue robe and had her hair tied back. Her expression was serious. I suppose we need to talk, Tamil said, trying to smile. Serna sat down across from him. You're lucky. In old times, both of us would already be gone. Yeah, lucky me, Tamil replied. So, what exactly is the ceremony of unity? Serna sighed. It's an old Varnokian tradition. It includes 3 steps: the bonding oath, the dance of harmony, and the sharing flame. Each part shows that both people trust and respect each other. Only then is the bond accepted by the people. Tamil blinked. Wait, dance? Yes. And not just any dance. It's done in front of hundreds of people. If we make one mistake, the council may call the union false. Tamil leaned back. Okay? No pressure. Serna softened a little. You'll be fine. I'll guide you. There was a short silence. Why are you really doing this? Tamil asked. Serna looked away. Because I've spent my whole life serving rules and duties. But now, when something unexpected happened, I had a chance to change something. Maybe open a door between our people, and maybe also save myself. Tamil nodded. That makes 2 of us. The next morning, the entire city was buzzing. News had spread fast. Noble Serna to bond with human explorer. Some Varnokians supported the decision, saying it could help unite both worlds. Others were angry and called it a disgrace. Outside the palace, a group of Varnokians gathered, holding banners that said, "Protect our traditions," in glowing letters. Tamil saw them from his window. This is not going to be easy, he said. The first part of the ceremony was held in the Hall of Stars, where a large platform floated under a glass dome. Tamil stood beside Serna as the crowd watched from all sides. Humans from the Earth delegation were also there, including Captain Mira, who gave Tamil a thumbs up from afar. Elder Rava stepped forward. Begin the bonding oath. Serna and Tamil turned to face each other. I mass checked. The Hall of Stars was quiet, and all eyes were on Tamil and Serna as they stood at the center of the platform. Around them floated silver lights, like fireflies from another world. The Varnokians stood proudly in their ceremonial robes. The humans wore formal uniforms. The moment was serious. Serna took a deep breath and began the bonding oath. I am Serna of House Tarn, she said, her voice clear and strong. I give this oath, not for tradition alone, but for peace between 2 worlds. I offer my bond in trust, respect, and unity. Tamil swallowed and followed her lead. I'm Tamil of Earth, he said, feeling the weight of the moment. I accept this bond with the same trust and respect. May this bond protect our people. As they finished the words, the platform glowed softly beneath their feet. The first step of the ceremony was complete. The crowd clapped, though some faces showed doubt. Some Varnokians didn't like the idea of a human joining with one of their nobles. But the law had been followed. Next came the dance of harmony. A soft music began to play. It wasn't like earth music. It sounded like wind, water, and stars, all mixed together. Serna took Tamil's hand and led him into the dance. Just follow me, she whispered. Tamil tried to copy her movements. At first, he stumbled. His steps were too heavy, his arms too stiff. A few people in the crowd laughed softly, but Serna didn't let go of his hand. She moved slowly, guiding him step by step. Soon, Tamil found the rhythm. Their bodies moved in sync. The lights around the hall swirled in response to their steps. The dance ended with their hands touching at the center, fingers linked. The crowd clapped louder this time. Even a few of the older Varnokians nodded with approval. The second step was done. Finally came the sharing flame. Two small fire bowls were brought to them. One was blue, the other golden. Serna took a small crystal rod and dipped it into her flame. She then touched it to Tamil's. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the flames combined into a bright green fire, rising into the air like a floating ribbon. The crowd gasped. Elder Rava stood and raised her hand. The flames have joined. The bond is complete, Tamil felt. Strange. This was supposed to be just a way to survive, just a rule to escape punishment. But now, looking at Serna's calm face, he didn't feel like it was fake anymore. Maybe this bond was becoming something real. After the ceremony, a feast was held. In the grand garden of Varnik 9, the tables were full of glowing fruits, colorful drinks, and sweet-smelling dishes. Humans and Varnokians sat together, sharing stories. Captain Mira walked up to Tamil. You clean up well, she said, smiling. That was quite a show. Tamil laughed. I'm just glad I didn't fall during the dance. Mira leaned closer. Are you okay with all this, being bonded to an alien? Tamil looked across the garden at Serna, who was speaking politely with some elders. I didn't plan this, but I think she's stronger than I expected, and maybe this bond isn't so bad. Before Mira could reply, a loud voice interrupted the joy. This bond is false. Everyone turned. A tall Varnokian stepped forward. He wore black and red robes, and his eyes burned with anger. I'm Gorak of the Flameburn clan. He said loudly, this human should not be allowed into our sacred traditions. Elder Tarn stood quickly. Gorak, this is not your place. It is, Gorak shouted. The Flameburn do not accept this bond. We declare it void. Let the human face the trial. Gasps spread through the crowd. Serna stepped forward. You dare question the council's decision? The council was weak, Gorak replied. A real union needs true spirit. Let the couple prove their bond before the ancient Heartstone. If they fail, the bond is broken and the punishment returns. Tamil stepped next to Serna. What's the Heartstone? Serna answered quietly. It's an ancient crystal in the Temple of Balance. If it glows when we touch it together, our bond is true. Captain Mira stepped up. You can't just change the rules now. But Elder Rava raised her hand. The Heartstone challenge is part of our deepest tradition. If we refuse it, the people may lose faith in the bond. Tamil looked at Serna. What happens if it doesn't glow? We both die, Serna said calmly. Tamil nodded. Then let's make it glow. That night, under the glowing moons of Varnik 9, the garden was quiet. Serna and Tamil stood side by side, both lost in thought. The bond ceremony was over. But a new challenge stood before them. The Heartstone test. If they failed, the council might not protect them, and Gorak's clan would surely push for punishment. Serna looked at Tamil. I know it's not fair, but we have to go through it. The Heartstone only glows when the bond is pure. Tamil sighed. We've barely known each other for a week. How can we prove anything to a rock? Serna gave a small smile. It's not just a rock. It's ancient. Some say it reads the soul. Just then, A soft beep came from Tommel's wrist communicator. He tapped it. Captain Mira's voice came through, urgent and clear. Tommel, get out of there. Our scanners picked up heat signatures moving toward the palace. Not friendly ones, Gorik? Tommel asked. Most likely. I think they're planning something tonight. You and Serna need to move now. Serna didn't wait. She grabbed Tommel's hand. Come with me. I know a safe path. They ran through a hidden passage behind them. Garden leading into the crystal forest. The trees glowed dim blue in the dark, lighting the way like lanterns. Their steps were fast, silent. Where are we going? Tommel asked. To the ice moons, Serna said. It's far from the city, but there's an old temple there. It holds the real Heartstone. Not the one kept in public for display. The real one listens. Tommel didn't argue. If there was any chance to survive, he would take it. They reached the skyport just before sunrise. Bilo, Serna's loyal servant, was already waiting with a small shuttle. His face was serious. I knew you would need me, he said. The royal guards are not loyal anymore. I saw some take payment from Flameburn agents. Thank you, Bilo. Serna said. We'll remember this. Bilo handed her a datapad. This will guide you to the temple. Stay hidden until nightfall. As the shuttle lifted into the sky, Tommel looked down at the city of Kavara. It sparkled in the early light, peaceful and quiet but full of danger now. The journey to the ice moons took for hours. The moons were cold and covered in white snow, but beautiful. Blue mountains rose like frozen waves. The temple stood near a cliff, half buried in the ice, its doors old but strong. Serna placed her hand on the entrance stone. It opened with a deep hum. Inside, the walls glowed with soft green light. Varnokian symbols danced across the ceiling. This is the Temple of Balance, Serna said. Only a few nobles know it still works. The real Heartstone is here. They walked to the center room. There, floating above a pedestal, was a crystal shaped like a heart but not in a human way. It was more like a swirling core of light and mist. Tommel. Inside the cold and quiet Temple of Balance, Tommel and Serna stood before the ancient Heartstone. The crystal pulsed gently with light, floating above the stone pedestal. Cold wind blew through the cracks in the walls, and silence filled the space. This is it, Serna said softly. The real Heartstone. It does not care about politics or law. It only responds to what is true. Tommel nodded. His hands were cold, but his thoughts were racing. This was more than survival now. This was about proving that the bond they shared, however strange it started, was real. Serna looked at him and held out her hand. We must place our hands together on the pedestal. Only then will the Heartstone respond. Tommel stepped forward and took her hand. It felt warm despite the cold around them. Together, they placed their joined hands on the pedestal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the crystal above them began to glow brighter. The soft green light grew stronger, brighter, and warmer. The swirling mist inside the stone moved faster, and the air around them began to hum. Tommel gasped. It's working. Serna's eyes widened. It's glowing for us. The Heartstone released a small wave of energy, gently lifting their hair and robes as if they were underwater. The temple walls lit up with soft patterned symbols of unity, peace, and balance. When the light finally faded, the stone floated back to normal, dim and calm again. Tommel and Serna slowly removed their hands. The silence returned. It means the bond is true, Serna said in disbelief. Not just for law, but in spirit. Tommel gave a small laugh. Looks like we really are married now. She smiled softly. Yes, I suppose we are. They rested in the temple that night. There was no fire, but the Heartstone kept the room warm. They sat on old cushions near the back wall. Tommel looked up at the ceiling, thinking about Earth. I never thought this would happen. I signed up to study planets, make maps, maybe write a book. Not marry an alien to avoid death. Serna laughed quietly. And I never thought I would share my life with a human. I was trained to speak at councils, to obey rules, to follow the path set by my family. But now, I'm walking a new path. With you. Tommel looked at her. Are you okay with that? She nodded. More than okay. A soft quiet settled between them. No pressure. No laws, just to people who began as strangers and now felt something stronger growing. The next morning, Bilo contacted them through the shuttle communicator. "My lady," he said, "you must return at once. The council is meeting today. Gork and the Flameburn clan are demanding the bond be declared false. You must present the Heartstone's glow as proof." Serna nodded. "We are on our way." Back in the city of Kavara, tension was high. Protesters stood outside the council hall. Some shouted in support of Serna and Tamil. Others held signs showing symbols of old Varnokian tradition, saying "Keep our blood pure and outsiders must not lead." Inside the council chamber, Gork stood before the elders, shouting angrily, "The bond is false. It is a trick. The human knows nothing of our ways. He cannot share spirit with one of us." Elder Rava raised a hand. "Silence. Let us hear from Serna and Tamil." The chamber doors opened. Serna and Tamil entered together, holding hands. The room went silent. Serna stepped forward and held up the proof. "We went to the..." Serna and Tamil walked side by side into the council hall. Their steps were calm, but inside their hearts were beating fast. The great room was filled with leaders, nobles, guards, and even some humans from the Earth mission. Everyone turned to watch them. Tamil carried the recording crystal from the Temple of Balance. Inside it was clear proof, the Heartstone glowing in response to their bond. Gork stood tall on the other side of the room. His face was stiff with anger. His supporters, members of the Flameburn clan, whispered loudly and watched with sharp eyes. Elder Rava raised her hand to bring silence. Serna of House Tarn and Tamil of Earth, "You may speak." Serna stepped forward first. "Honorable elders," she said clearly, "we accepted the Heartstone challenge. We went to the original temple, far from the city, far from politics. And the Heartstone responded to our touch." She lifted the recording crystal. With a small tap, the image appeared in the air bright. Glowing green light filled the room as the scene from the temple played. Everyone could see the Heartstone rising in brightness. The patterns of unity lit the walls. Gasps were heard in the room. Even some of Gork's own followers looked unsure now. "The bond is real," Serna continued, "not just by law, but by spirit." Tamil stepped forward. "We didn't plan this. We didn't pretend. But through all this, we learned to trust each other. That's what the Heartstone saw." Elder Tarn, Serna's father, stood slowly. His voice was calm. "I doubted this bond. I doubted the human. But the Heartstone does not lie. I now accept this bond as true." One by one, the other elders nodded in agreement. But Gork stepped forward with fire in his eyes. "The Heartstone is old. Maybe it is broken. Or maybe these two fooled it somehow." Tamil shook his head. "Still not enough for you?" Gork pointed at Serna. "She is of noble blood. And you? You are a wanderer. A mistake. You do not belong in our traditions." Captain Mira, standing with the human group, finally spoke up. "And what do you fear, Gork?" "That peace might win. That unity might mean the end of your control." The room went quiet. Elder Rava stood. "Enough. The council has heard both sides. We will now vote." 12 elders sat on floating seats, one by one. They each lit a symbol. In front of them, blue for support, red for refusal. The lights spread across the room. 11 blue lights, 1 red. The decision was clear. Elder Rava turned to the crowd. "The bond is accepted. It is true in law and in spirit." The council speaks with one voice. Cheers broke out. Many in the hall clapped. The humans smiled and nodded. Some of the Varnokians who had been unsure now clapped politely. Serna turned to Tamil, a small smile forming on her face. "We did it." Tamil smiled back. "Guess we're officially stuck together now." Outside the hall, as the celebration began, Gork stood alone with his guards. His eyes were filled with hate. He whispered to one of his men, "They think this is over, but the old blood will not be silenced." Then he disappeared into the crowd. That evening, a public celebration was held in the Unity Plaza, a wide open space surrounded by gardens and sky lanterns. Serna and Tamil sat on a raised platform, watching as humans and Varnokians danced together. Soft music played, mixing both cultures. The moment felt peaceful, like something new had begun. Captain Mira joined them. That was impressive, she said to Tamil. Never thought I'd see the day when a human explorer became part of alien royalty. I didn't think I asked checked. Weeks had passed since the council accepted the bond between Tamil and Serna. The news had spread across Varnik 9 and even reached Earth. Many called it the beginning of a new age, the first true alliance between humans and Nokia NS. In the capital city of Kavara, a new building was being constructed near the glowing river banks. It would serve as a joint Earth-Varnik embassy, a place where both species could learn, work, and grow together. The building's design was part human steel, part Varnokian crystal, a symbol of unity. Tamil now lived in the royal estate with Serna, though he still wore his Earth uniform most days. He helped with science missions, water research, and even taught some young Varnokians about Earth history. Serna was now more than just a noble. She had been named Varnokian ambassador to Earth, the first of her kind to take on such a role. She was preparing for a journey to Earth, and Tamil would go with her. They stood together on a balcony, watching the two moons rise over the crystal forest. You ever think we'd come this far? Tamil asked. Serna smiled. No. When you walked into that spring and saw me, I thought I would never recover from the shame. Tamil laughed. And I thought I was about to be executed. But now, she said, placing her hand over his, I'm thankful it happened. Tamil nodded. So am I. The next day, a large celebration was held before Serna and Tamil left for Earth. The Unity Plaza was decorated with glowing plants, banners from both worlds, and sweet-scented clouds floating through the air. Varnokians performed traditional dances. Humans played music from Earth. Even Captain Mira gave a speech. I came here with a team of explorers, she said. But what we discovered was more than science. We found friendship, courage, and something worth protecting. The crowd clapped, and Serna stepped forward to speak next. This bond between Tamil and I began from an accident, but it grew into something powerful. Our two people are not as different as we once thought. We both care for our homes, our honor, and each other. Now, let us walk together into the future. Cheers rose from the crowd. Gifts were exchanged, Varnokian, crystal scrolls, and earth-made books. Children from both species held hands and sang songs in mixed languages. Tamil looked out at the crowd and whispered to Serna, not bad for a forced marriage. She smirked, you're lucky the Heartstone liked you. Later that night, as they prepared to leave, Bilo entered the room with 2 silver bags. Here are your travel cloaks, he said, bowing. Serna looked at him warmly. You've been with me through everything. Thank you, Bilo. Tamil smiled. We couldn't have done it without you. Bilo gave a small smile. Just doing my duty. But if you meet Earth leaders, to remind them that Varnokian tea is better than Earth's. They all laughed. The ship that would take them to Earth was ready. It stood on a landing pad made of glass and stone, glowing softly under the stars. A group of Varnokian guards saluted them as they stepped on board. Inside, the pilot welcomed them. Course set for Earth. Estimated time, 3 days. As they lifted into the sky, Tamil looked down one last time at Varnik 9, the rivers, the mountains, the glowing city. He leaned back in his seat and looked at Serna. So, what do we tell your people if Earth food surprises them? Serna smiled. I'll just say, he cooked it. Blame the human. Tamil laughed. Fair enough. 3 days later, their ship entered Earth's orbit. Cities sparkled below. Blue oceans stretched far and wide. Space stations blinked in greeting. They landed in a green valley near the Earth-Varnik Welcome Center, built just months ago. Crowds had gathered to see the visitors. Flags of both worlds flew high in the wind. Children waved as Serna stepped out in her ceremonial robe. Tamil walked beside her, holding her hand, now proud, not scared, not confused, Reporters took photos, leaders gave greetings. Even some who had once doubted the bond now welcomed it with open arms. That night, as they sat on Earth's soil, watching stars above, Tamil looked at Serna. "Do you ever miss the old quiet days?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "No, I miss the peace, sometimes. But I would never trade this. Not even for a quiet life on a hill." She shook her head. "Not even for that." Tamil reached into his coat and pulled out a small crystal. "I kept a piece of the Heartstone, just to remember where this all began." She took it and smiled. "From a mistake to a mission," she whispered, "and from strangers to something more." Tamil smiled. "Yeah, something much more." As the night sky shone above them, the first human Varnic couple sat side by side, ready for whatever the stars held next together.